Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Next Gen Game Plan, a podcast for future sports leaders. I'm your host, Tyler Darr, and on this podcast, I'll be interviewing sports industry professionals to learn about their career paths and what advice they have for those looking to break into sports. Today, we'll be joined by James Cameron. James grew up in Tucson before attending the University of Arizona. He started working in baseball back in 1993 for the Tucson Toros. Additionally, he gained experience working for the Colorado Rockies during spring training in Tucson. He also worked as a student manager for the University of Arizona baseball team from 1997 to 2000. In 2002, he landed a job with his hometown Arizona Diamondbacks, which eventually led him down to his current position with the team as complex coordinator. James, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you, Tyler. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you, and we're super excited to kind of hear about more of your journey. To start us off, could you tell us about your background and your journey of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah. So like you said, I grew up in Tucson, went to Mountain View High School up in the northwest side of town. Loved baseball. My family actually got to know the general manager of the Tucson Toros, and I got my opportunity, believe it or not, at the age of 13 to actually bat boy. I don't know how that was legal back then, but here we are. But yeah, it was nice. I always just wanted to keep working around baseball and be around the ballpark, the ball players, just getting to know more about the people and everybody, the opportunities working in baseball and whatnot. Like you said, I hooked up with the Rockies, worked spring training for a couple years with them, and they recommended me to the University of Arizona to be a student manager. And as a student manager there for the 3 years that I'd worked, I'd actually gotten to know the equipment guy for the Arizona baseball team as well. The head guy, he also did other sports as well, but mainly baseball. So he had left Arizona, and we got reunited in 2002, and that's when I joined the Arizona Diamondbacks with him. And he eventually retired in 2021, and I was able to take over his position with the Diamondbacks, and that's where we are today.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's super cool to see kind of how you made that connection, and next thing you know, you're in his position a handful of years later. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
And then a lot of your background is focused on baseball. What do you love about the sport, and when did you realize that was what you wanted to work in?
So it was mostly how I connected with my older brother. He kind of, led the way, was the older, bigger brother you always wanted to be, at least in my case. He would collect the baseball cards and tell me about what baseball players were good. And it helped us bond together and grow together. And that's just kind of what led my way to wanting to be like him and play baseball. And eventually I realized I wasn't going to be good enough to probably play professionally. Even if I was, I realized at a young age, those careers don't last too long. And it's, you're one out of a million, or maybe not a million, but one out of hundreds of thousands of kids that actually make it to the big leagues and live those dreams through that they always hope for themselves and whatnot. So I decided to actually pursue the bat boying, and that was my way of furthering my baseball career. And it just kind of exploded into something bigger at this point. But
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I love kind of seeing how your brother and your bond with him kind of led you to where you are now. I think it goes to show how much sports can kind of connect you with your family and other people in general.
absolutely.
And you were a student manager for the University of Arizona baseball team, like you said. What was that experience like, and how did it help set you up for what you do now?
So it was great. It was awesome. Back in the day, believe it or not, 1997, in-state tuition for a semester at the University of Arizona was only $1,600. But for whatever reason, I thought that was amazing. And I got, my tuition, I had already paid it, but I got it back. So it was like I had $1,600 in my pocket, and I was working in baseball still. And it allowed me to continue, like I said, working in baseball. I got to bond with some of the players on those teams at the University of Arizona. Some of them I grew up playing with, in Little League and whatnot. So that was awesome. And some of those relationships I still maintain today. It's kind of cool. It really helped me form myself into the harder worker I like to think I am today. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. And I probably could have made more money if I just had a random other job, but it wouldn't, I don't think, have helped me get where I am today. So
Definitely. I think that's one of the things with sports is sometimes the experience comes before the money, especially when you're still working your way through and trying to figure out what you're trying to do. And how were you able to make yourself stand out amongst the competition when you were breaking into the sports industry?
I try and be modest for myself. I've met several other equipment managers and complex coordinators and whatnot, and they are all amazing people and do a great job themselves. I like to think I'm as good as them, but I always hold probably myself down a little bit and try and keep myself, like I said, modest. Everybody that does what we do, they're really good at what they do it, and that's probably why they're still doing it. I try and work hard, pay attention to the details, and have a positive personality to with everybody I interact with. I hope that goes a long way into helping keep my job, I guess.
No, 100%. I think having a great attitude is something that's easier said than done. And you even mentioned, the attention to detail. I've heard a lot of other people mention how important that is. And then kind of like you said, the networking aspect on that side, knowing the people you know can really help you get to where you want to be. And then based on your experiences, what are some ways that college students can set themselves up for a career in sports?
You have to be a doer. You got to want to be able to get your hands dirty, definitely get to know people. I can't say that enough. Like, networking is huge. It's made a big part in my life. Definitely paying attention to the details. That's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned myself personally. I still, every day I'm still learning something new, and I take those things that I learn and I put them towards my everyday work. Be ready to go and do whatever is necessary. Really, it's I don't want to say make sacrifices, but if it's something you really want to do, definitely do it and give it your all. Being proactive, that's another one of my key things that I always tell my assistants and whatnot. Just working ahead, getting to know as many people as you can get to know, and not being afraid to get your hands dirty.
100%. Yeah, taking that extra step, putting in the extra effort, and kind of like you said, just being proactive. I think all that is great advice and is something that can really make you stand out. What specific skills do you believe are important for people to have to be successful in the sports industry?
Skills, just be willing to be a hard worker, being able to adjust, and paying attention to the details. I hate to keep coming back to the same things, but that's the majority of my everyday thing. Communicating well always helps. Being ready to learn and working together. That's another thing, is working in a team sport. I like to say, we're on our own team in the equipment room, as well as, the players, they're on their teams as well, but we're all one team together, and we have our different departments even, but, we're still working together as a team and getting along with the people you work with, even though you might have some differences from now and then and stuff like that. But, if you're in team sports, you got to be able to show that you can work on a team in any which way. So,
yeah, I think it's pretty cool to kind of see how, even though you're not actually playing the game,
right.
You're working with others and you're really working hard to accomplish the same goal. So that's really cool.
For sure.
And what does a typical day at your job look like?
So a typical day, we probably can guarantee ourselves to work like 12 to 14 hours a day. That's a little crazy when I talk about in a normal capacity, but we're usually the first ones in and the last ones out. When we leave at the end of the night, we try and make sure, I like to call it, turnkey ready. So when we walk in the door, there really isn't much to do, but maybe the last load of laundry needs to get completed from the night before. We'll get breakfast. We get fed breakfast at the ballpark, so that's nice. We'll get a little food in our stomachs to fuel the machine. You just get everything ready to go. Make sure as soon as somebody comes in, everything they need is ready for them. We'll set up the fields for practice, clear the fields, and prep for games. We'll, at that point, start like pregame laundry from all the stuff that people might have worn while they're working out or getting ready, prepping for themselves to practice or go out to the fields for the game. Then we, just kind of maintain everything, get proactive at that point, restock refrigerators, basically work ahead as much as we can just to save us time towards the end of the day. And then obviously after games, it would be post-game laundry, cleaning up the field after the game. And I do have to be honest, I have two assistants who do most of these as their main priorities, but I help bridge the gap for them just to make sure that we're all working together as a team and get home as soon as possible. Just, we do all have families, so that's also our main priority, is to get the job done right and get home to our families, to our, why we're working.
Definitely. No, that's great that you guys work together on all that. And it seems like you guys got a busy schedule, but working to stay ahead, like you said.
Yes.
And does that vary a lot between like the off season and the season? Are your schedules very different, or is it kind of there's still a lot to do either way?
Off season, it does change. It's very similar. The capacity to what things going on would be might be a little less. They would do maybe like a informal kind of workout with maybe a few players on the field and whatnot, and we would have smaller size loads of laundry and stuff like that to do later. The off season days are probably more like a regular 8-hour day. With the minor leagues now, they do have a dead period, so that kind of helps us get a break as well. The players aren't supposed to be really contacted by us or any of the coaches, but there's some players that are, like if they're on the 40-man, they basically get the run of the complex for all the needs that they want if they live locally here in town and whatnot. Otherwise, they'll find their own places to kind of go work out and train and get ready for the next year. That pretty much covers it.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, the fact that you guys at least have some time to kind of get on a more little consistent schedule. And then, like you said, the players kind of using it throughout the offseason can definitely play an impact for sure. And what has it been like being able to work for the Arizona Diamondbacks, your hometown team?
It's been amazing. I have to pinch myself. It's awesome. We get tickets, and I have friends and family that always want to go to the game, and it's like it feels like work for me sometimes, but I'll go to the game with them, or I'll just give them the tickets and let them use them. But it's great, especially to see the support that we've really started to receive with our success over the last couple of years. It's been pretty cool to know that that's something I'm a part of. And yeah, I take great pride in that. And hopefully we can continue to grow and get better.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really cool not only that you managed to get into a professional organization, but the one that you are in your hometown. And I think that's really exciting. A lot of people dream of doing that one day. So really cool to see you living that out. And then kind of building on what you said about being a part of it. What was it like being a part of the Diamondbacks World Series run just a few years ago in 2023?
That was really cool. I actually got the opportunity. They asked me to come and help out in the clubhouse throughout the playoffs. There was some moments I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it. One in particular moment was I couldn't believe they included me in the introductions, which I was just trying not to faint or pass out and make myself look like a fool or anything. But when the Dodgers came back and we were up 2 games, we got introduced on the line, and then the fans were all screaming "Beat LA," and you could just feel it almost like hitting you in the chest from the stands, and that was really cool. It was great, popping champagne bottles and celebrating the victories with that. The team went to Philly. I didn't travel with them to Philly, but to see them do that, it was great. We got in the World Series against the Rangers, and they asked me if I wanted to go on that trip to Arlington, which was, man, it was a blur, but it was like a dream come true. I'm hoping that it's something that we can do again very soon, if not a few more times. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for us the best way we would have wanted it to, but it was awesome. They trusted me with being in charge of the employee flight, which they flew a bunch of our employees out to Arlington to watch the game, which was really awesome of our organization to do that. It kind of put a challenge on me to, kind of see what it was like in the big league level to handle like being in charge of the luggage of these 200 people getting on and off the plane. It's like something's going to get lost, but actually it didn't, and it worked out great. So it was a good chance to kind of show the other skills that I could do to some of those big league equipment guys as well. So it was awesome. And I hope we get to go again soon.
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully they'll be back. And that's really great that you got to be such a big part of it. And I specifically remember when that World Series was going on, them showing all the employees on the TV after the game that they won in Texas in the stands, cheering them on. So that's really cool that you got to kind of coordinate that whole the flight and everything like that. Be really big part of the experience for everyone. And then kind of to wrap things up, if you could give one piece of advice to someone looking to break into the sports industry, what would it be?
You got to be patient. For instance, myself, I've been doing this for a while. I've had some ups and downs with some bad choices on my end and bad jobs that just didn't fit well with myself. You got to be patient. Make sure you're a good teammate and surround yourself with good people, as best as you can. Control that. Just make sure you're maybe one of those good people, and it would facilitate other people being good and seeing how good of a team teammate and teamwork you can do. There's a saying I always kind of refer back to. It's, you can go fast alone, but you can go further together. And I try and think about that every time. It's like, it kind of really makes sense. It's like, do you want to go far or do you want to go fast? And every time I've seen other people, in their careers try and go fast, it goes fast, but it also ends fast, and they're always looking for something new, and it makes things more difficult, I think. And I think being a good, employee would be to show that you're reliable, show that you want, where you're at, and that you're, willing to work up. Sounds like it would be a good employee if it was somebody I was hiring, and that's kind of how I try and shape myself as well.
Absolutely. I think that's fantastic, especially the quote you said that you stand by. I think that really encapsulates the idea of working together. And, kind of like you said, if you want to go through things fast, everything goes so fast as it is already, you might as well take some time and work with the people around you and trying to make everyone better. So I think that's great advice to end on for sure. Well, everyone, that will do it for this episode. Today, we were joined by James Cameron, the complex coordinator for the Arizona Diamondbacks. James, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you speaking on the podcast today.
Thank you, Tyler.
I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this episode. I hope you found it interesting and ultimately took something away that will help you in the next steps of your journey. And with that, we will see you next time on the Next Gen Game Plan, a podcast for future sports leaders.